One Page Weekly with Nick Slavik. Perfection. Data plus feelings. 60% of people that call themselves perfectionists avoid challenging tasks for fear of failure. 30% of couples say that their main source of stress is perfectionism in regards to their relationship. 28% of perfectionists are diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. 20% of workplace perfectionists regularly miss deadlines. And perfectionists are 40% more likely to burn out. I was restoring a stark Norwegian country church by myself 15 years ago. Up on a scaffolding tower, I saw an elderly man enter the back of church and start to walk my way. Gray hair, hunched over, quiet and thoughtful with his speech. "How's everything going to look when you're done?" I responded, "It's going to be perfect." "There's no such thing as perfect," he replied, his head down, monitoring his slow walking path. He never made eye contact with me. I said nothing. I've replayed that conversation in my head thousands of times since then. He was right. I wasn't mature enough to know it then, but I know now that there's no such thing as perfect. It's a fool's errand. It's an excuse for not starting, or giving up, or justifying paying someone else to solve your problems. Admittedly, I have an irrationally short reaction to people who claim perfectionism. I suffer from a deep form of utilitarianism, one that prods me to start something before a plan is made or a direction is known, figured out along the way. For the life of me, I cannot understand why some people know what needs to be done and do not at least start. But I've also witnessed the careful consideration of people who can scan, gain perspective, plan thoughtfully, and execute methodically. What I would call slow, but that's a value judgment. I've been in awe of these consistent, systematic executors, knowing that I cannot operate that way. I've come to appreciate achievers of all sorts, whatever the pace or pre-planning. But there's a through line with all these archetypes. No one holds out for perfection. I've said to myself and anyone who would listen that perfection is the enemy of good. Turns out, some dude named Voltaire likely said that first. He also said some other good things. Judge a man by his questions rather than his answers. And common sense is not so common. More related perfection maxim, the Pareto principle, which states 80% of the outcome comes from 20% of the effort, or humans for that matter. Perfectionists tend to hyper-focus on the less productive 20%. Here's another one, minimally viable product. This is one of my favorites. Instead of waiting for a thing to be perfect before launching, get out a workable thing and iterate along the way. Unintentionally and admittedly, and in hindsight, I do these very well. But the most heartbreaking thing about perfectionism? Seeing people tear themselves down because of some unrealistic expectation of the unattainable. This is me. I've done this and still do it. Since I'm lobbing out quotes, here's another. Comparison is the thief of joy. Teddy Roosevelt said this one. So have my friends when they counsel me. I ask myself the question, am I doing well more than I should? That question likely comes up because I see another thing that I would perceive as doing well. So once you conquer perfectionism, it seems you have to also conquer comparison. Comparison is the enemy of good, as I've always said, and will continue to remind myself for quite some time yet. This has been One Page Weekly